Today, there are many leaders in evangelicalism who are corrupt. They are immoral and don't teach the Bible accurately. They suppress the truth about the Bible and cover up their sins. Many Christians have the mentality that we should not publicly and directly criticize our corrupt leaders. Instead, they think they should be opposed quietly and politely, without making waves and without making anyone angry. However, we will see in Luke chapter 6 that Jesus did not follow that philosophy. He gave us a very different example regarding how to interact with those who are opposed to the truth. The 4th chapter of Luke records the beginning of the ministry of Jesus. The 5th chapter tells us Jesus began to face some opposition from the religious leaders. Then in the 6th chapter, we see the scribes and Pharisees began using the Sabbath laws as a basis for condemning Jesus. In chapter 6, verse 1, we read that on a Sabbath, the disciples of Jesus began picking heads of grain and eating them. The Pharisees accused the disciples of violating the Sabbath, but Jesus dismissed their accusation. Let's pick up reading at Luke 6, verse 6. Now it happened that on another Sabbath he entered the synagogue and was teaching. And there was a man there whose right hand was withered. And the scribes and the Pharisees were watching Jesus closely to see if he heals on the Sabbath, so that they might find reason to accuse him. Notice the word heals is in present tense. The scribes and Pharisees knew that Jesus had been healing people. They were watching to see if he also made it a practice of healing on the Sabbath. Notice the word accuse. The scribes and Pharisees were not friendly to Jesus. They were opposed to him. Verse 8. But Jesus knew what they were thinking, and he said to the man with the withered hand, "Get up and come forward." And he stood up and came forward. So Jesus knew the Jewish leaders were against him, but he did not back away from the confrontation. He walked toward it. Verse 9. And Jesus said to them, "I ask you, is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save a life or to destroy it?" So Jesus was wise. He first asked a question which pointed out the shallowness of the scribes and Pharisees. Verse 10. And after looking around at them all, he said to him, "Stretch out your hand." And he did so, and his hand was restored. I'm sure Jesus knew healing the man's hand would create controversy. However, he did it anyway. He was bold. He did the right thing even though it was deeply unpopular and offensive to the religious leaders. Verse 11. But they themselves were filled with rage and were discussing together what they might do to Jesus. Notice the word rage. They were not lukewarm or mildly upset. They were exceedingly angry. Today, there are many leaders in evangelicalism who are corrupt. They don't teach the Bible accurately. They suppress the truth about the Bible and cover up their corruption. Many Christians have the mentality that we should not publicly and directly criticize our corrupt leaders. Instead, they think they should be opposed quietly and politely, without making waves and without making anyone angry. However, Jesus did not do that. Jesus was very bold. The scribes and Pharisees were opposed to the truth. Jesus stood up to them. He did not shy away from offending them and generating fury. At some point, we need to do the same. There are leaders within evangelicalism who are damaging the church. They need to be opposed. We should not back off from publicly exposing their sin and heresy to the public. Verse 12. Now it happened that at this time he went off to the mountain to pray, and he was spending the whole night in prayer to God. And when day came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, whom he also named as apostles. Notice Jesus called his disciples and then appointed 12 apostles. We often picture Jesus having only 12 disciples who traveled with him from place to place. However, he actually had dozens, if not hundreds of disciples. The 12 were not the only ones who followed Jesus everywhere he went. There was a large crowd that followed him all over Galilee. Verse 14. Simon, whom he also named Peter, and Andrew his brother, and James and John, and Philip and Bartholomew, and Matthew and Thomas, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon who was called the Zealot, Judas the son of James, and Judas Iscariot who became a traitor. And Jesus came down with them and stood on a level place, and there was a large crowd of his disciples, and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem, and the coastal region of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases, and those who were troubled with unclean spirits were being cured. Verse 17 lists the various geographical areas the large crowd came from. Sidon is 50 miles or 80 kilometers away from the Sea of Galilee. That would have been at least a 2-day journey for the Sidonians. Jerusalem was at least 70 miles or 110 kilometers away. Some areas of Judea were even further. Verse 19. And all the crowd was trying to touch him, for power was coming from him and healing them all. And turning his gaze toward his disciples, he began to say, Blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are those who hunger now, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are those who cry now, for you shall laugh. Blessed are you when men hate you, and exclude you, and insult you, and scorn your name as evil, for the sake of the Son of Man. Be glad in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven, for their fathers were doing the same things to the prophets. Christians often have the attitude that we should avoid being hated, excluded, insulted, and scorned. Many churches water down their message and avoid speaking the truth boldly in order to stay in the good graces of those outside the church. However, Jesus said we are blessed if we are hated and scorned for the sake of Jesus. Instead of evading derision, we should accept it and wear it as a badge of honor. Verse 24. But woe to you who are rich, for you are receiving your comfort in full. Woe to you who are well fed now, for you shall be hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you shall mourn and cry. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for their fathers were doing the same things to the false prophets. Many people assume it is good if all men speak well of you. That is taken as a sign of success and wisdom. Furthermore, many Christians think it is a defect if you are not praised by all men. However, Jesus taught the opposite. He pronounced a woe on those who are praised by all men. Jesus knew that those who speak the truth will be maligned. Therefore, anyone who is not maligned is not speaking the truth. It is not a good sign if no one opposes you, particularly if no one outside the church opposes your beliefs. Some Christians may think this is a contradiction to the need to have a good reputation in society. After all, one of the requirements to be an elder is to have a good reputation with those outside the church. We Christians need to guard our reputation in regards to our actions. We should do everything possible to avoid being maligned for lying, stealing, cheating, murdering, abusing, or committing adultery. However, we should not shy away from being criticized for speaking the truth. Verse 27. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you, pray for those who disparage you. Whoever hits you on the cheek, offer him the other also, and whoever takes away your garment, do not withhold your tunic from him either. Give to everyone who asks of you, and whoever takes away what is yours, do not demand it back. These last several verses reinforce the idea that our actions and how we treat people should generate a good reputation. Many Christians have the mentality that leaders inside the church who are immoral and heretical should be opposed quietly and politely without making waves and without making anyone angry. However, Jesus did not do that. Jesus knew the scribes and Pharisees were looking for a way to criticize him. He did not shy away from the confrontation. He met it head on. He healed a man even though he knew the religious leaders would use it as ammunition against him. There are leaders inside evangelicalism today who are damaging the church. They are immoral. They are not teaching the Bible completely and accurately. They need to be opposed. We should not shy away from offending them and making them angry. Thanks for visiting Bible Mountain. If you have already joined my email list, thank you, and please tell others about Bible Mountain. If you have not joined my email list yet, please do so now. In order to join, go to BibleMountain.com, click on subscribe, and that will take you to a page where you can sign up. Your email address will not be sold nor given away. Once again, thanks for visiting Bible Mountain.